Hello and welcome to the second of our Lunch and Learn sessions that are tying in with the Mental Health Awareness Week and the theme of community. So yesterday I started off with outlining the importance of belonging and how loneliness can really affect our mental health. And in contrast to that, how creating and finding a sense of community, how that can help us with our own mental health. So in today's section, today's short lunch and learn session, I really want to cover off how and why being aware of mental health can help our visibility, can help the way we support our community. And just to reiterate from some of the conversations we had yesterday, is a sense of community can be in a range of or variety of places, such as the workplace. It could be in the place that you live. It could be your sports group. It could be your faith group, if that is something you spend a lot of time doing. So anywhere where you have a sense of belonging, that you feel safe, you feel cared for and trusted is really ultimately a definition of community. And whether you have that at the moment or are looking to find that sense of community, I outlined yesterday, those are some of the key attributes that people can look for to feel comfortable with the environment, the people that they are with. So in today's session, I'm going to really start addressing mental health. Does it affect me? Is it something that affects the community that we are in? Or is it something that is rather tangential, something that doesn't affect me? Then we'll move on to really look at what does being aware look like. So what are the behaviors that we may start to notice within our community, within our friendship group, that someone may be struggling with their mental health? How to be aware. So once you've identified if someone may be struggling, what are the ways that you as individuals can support that person if they are indeed struggling with their mental health? The importance of community support. So really returning to the theme of the Mental Health Awareness Week is our community can be such an important part of looking after and then also maintaining our mental health and a positive mental health. So mental health isn't a static issue. Looking after our mental health requires ongoing maintenance. We need to look after it. We need to check in. We need to make sure that our own mental health is in a good place. Things will knock it off kilter, and then by having the right frameworks involved can help us to just check in and adjust accordingly if we feel that our mental health is something that needs a bit of care. I give a final thought in terms of what is or how we can support people's mental health. What does it look like? And ultimately, that is the first step in really having one's recognized if someone is struggling with their mental health. Then what can we do to support them? So mental health, I alluded to the suggestion that, well, mental health is something that doesn't necessarily affect me. Throughout these courses of presentations, I've tried to keep the photos, the imagery real, in the fact that it's not taken off Shutterstock. It is something that is relevant to all of our lives. And this image here is a Christmas image where every year on Christmas Eve, a group of us all get together. We go for either a longer or a shorter run, and we all meet back for bacon butties. There's a real sense of community here, both young and old. And I think that's really important, that mental health issues do affect both young and old, and it can be across all age groups. So what you'll see here, there's roughly around 100 people here that took part in the run. And just by looking at the stats, it won't be a surprise that, or it could be a surprise that it's likely that a number of people, though not necessarily visible, could well be struggling with their mental health. And part of this is a bit of a recap, but 1 in 4 adults every year experience challenges with their mental health. What is possibly equally alarming is that 1 in 5 young people in 2023 reported that they also struggle with their mental health. And just recapping, going back to some of the stats yesterday, that 16 to 24-year-olds are the age group within the UK that seem to have the highest level of loneliness within our community. And this goes back to the challenge of finding ways to cope with that, to support people with loneliness. Otherwise, particularly within the age group, that dynamic, that statistic may then start to follow through to the older ages. So in summary, mental health, people struggling with their mental health, is present within whichever community we live in, whether that be at work, in the village, or the towns that we live in, but also through the communities, the activities, the faith groups that we might be involved in. Just looking at the work perspective for a moment, 19% of women that are in the workplace have recorded as struggling with their mental health. And in particular, this is noteworthy because that is almost double the percentage of men that experience mental health challenges within the workplace. We talked about how mental health really does affect the workplace in terms of increasing the number of sick days, increasing the number of or percentage of turnover within the workplace. So ultimately, we can't ignore mental health issues within the workplace, within our community. And before I go on, to the next section, when I say it doesn't affect me, I've given you some of the stats, but perhaps what I haven't done is also just given a very top line in terms of what we categorize as mental health issues. And some of them were maybe more prevalent to young people than to older people. So we have stress, we have anxiety, we have depression. But also included within the stats for mental health are eating disorders, self-harm, PTSD, OCD, and then lastly also panic attacks. So we can't just think of mental health as people feeling maybe low or having a poor mood. It actually covers a significantly broader remit. And when I talk about younger people, for example, we may think about the messages that they're receiving on social media about what it is they could be aspiring to, many of which of those images may be completely unrealistic, and how that then can start to affect their mental health, their behaviors to try and potentially achieve what is, in some cases, a false dream and may not even be achievable. So just in summary to this page, it doesn't affect me. Well, I think the benefit of having mental health awareness weeks to focus on community makes us realize that mental health is something that is amongst us. It is something that many of us can be struggling with, and maybe even silently. And so by going on to the next section, what does being aware look like? How can we spot the signs and signposts of when someone may be struggling with their mental health? And in my mind, there are 5 key signs that people may be struggling with their mental health. And as a result of this, once we identify what those signs are, we can then at least start to support that individual. So being mental health aware can be important for all of us in whichever capacity we take it in. So firstly, the way in which we communicate or other people communicate can change if they are struggling, if their mental health is proving a challenge for them. It may be that a previously vibrant, enthusiastic individual starts to be more subdued, more quiet in either work or social environments. It can be that that individual may start to be slightly snappier or irritable with people around them, work colleagues, friends, coaches. Maybe that they start to withdraw from social situations. There's a reduced level of interaction. Similarly, they might be slower to respond to any requests. Again, be for various work commitments or things that they should be doing or could be doing within the community. So just quickly in summary, that first section, people's communication can change. They can become slightly more withdrawn. And within a community, we want people to feel comfortable and trusted and cared for within that environment. And that was one of the key messages we took out of yesterday's session is why is community important and what does having that sense of community and belonging look like? The second area with which we can start to maybe notice if someone is struggling with their mental health is that of their routine and productivity. It may be that people have a reduced level of focus. They're not able to necessarily hit the deadlines that have been given to them, within reason, of course. People may be starting to call in sick or experience being sick and having a poorer sense of timekeeping. So their motivation levels have gone down. It may be that their interest in the training, the work, the projects that they're working on have started to subside. It might be a sign of procrastination. So when we are looking at the levels of productivity and the routines that people keep, if someone's normal standards that you've become accustomed to have started to either slip or to take a downward spiral, that can be an indicator that their mental health is needing some support. The third element that we can keep an eye on if we think someone is struggling with their mental health can be their appearance and their energy levels. So it may be that people's habits are less healthy than they would be. So they may be exercising less, they might be eating less healthily, they may be less constructive in their self-care and their appearance when they are turning up to either social environments or just generally in life also. Emotionally is the fourth area where someone may start to show signs that their mental health is in need of support. It may be that they are more emotional than they used to be or normally are. They might have a more negative self-talk. There may be an inability to cope with what may be stressful situations or situations that they wouldn't normally react to in such a way. So a reaction may be that they are crying in reaction to, unable to cope with expectations or pressures that they have within the workplace. And it may feel that they are stressed and overworked. The behavioral element is the last and fifth way in which we can start to see if mental health is proving to be a challenge. So, and with that, I mean, someone may become an unduly high risk taker. And obviously with that sense of judgment, it may be that they start to, in linking with our appearance and energy levels, they may start to be using more substances than they have done in the past. Now, with each of those 5 areas of signposts that you could keep an eye out for. So we have changes in their communication, we have changes in someone's routine and productivity, alterations in their appearance and energy levels, along with emotional changes, and then lastly, their actions, their risk-taking may change. Once we've noticed those, then actually, as a member of that community, and it may be that you notice those changes in yourself as well, that it might be a time when you can ask for help or you can approach someone if they need support. So how to be aware? You've noticed that someone may be struggling, and that's where a lot of sensitivity then needs to come in. So being aware is to firstly, sensitively, kindly, and without judgment, to approach that person to see if they are okay, if they are feeling as if they need some support or if they need a conversation. Don't try and solve the problem just there and then at that point. Maybe give them the opportunity to arrange time when they feel prepared and ready to discuss so that they can formulate and articulate what they're experiencing at that moment. And when you do have that meeting, it's important to listen. And that's to listen without trying to fix, listen without judgment, and just listen there, not to give feedback. It's actually quite a big step for someone to open themselves up to have that conversation. And so if you are that person who is listening, then do so sensitively and calmly. And once you've had that conversation, it's important to follow up, check in how they are. Again, listen without judgment and try not to fix and don't give feedback. Check in on a regular basis. And again, in a private sense, not in an open space with other people around. I think the key important here is that we can give ourselves and we can support each other as a member of the community. So as a member of a community, we want to foster that sense of belonging, giving people the ability to feel valued, trusted, to be themselves. And it's okay to struggle. It's okay to ask for help and support. And in doing so, we can then build a greater sense of resilience, both within that community and for the individuals, so that as and when these challenges do arise, rather than causing it to be a source of ill health or decline in our mental health, it can also be a form of resilience. In yesterday's lunch and learn session, we discussed about how having that sense of community can be supportive in making people feel more confident in addressing those challenges, overcoming those obstacles, and with a great sense of purpose with that chemistry that is generated when we are part of the community. And by being a positive influence, by role modeling and supporting individuals, it shows that it is possible to work through these challenges, to overcome them, and then to return to and then be able to maintain a positive mental health. Ultimately, it's about being there and supporting individuals. But also turning it back on itself is that if we have noticed any of those attributes in terms of when someone is struggling with their mental health, if we are noticing that within ourselves, again, feel free to reach out to someone that can give you that support. I think probably the main area that I want to cover off in conclusion to what does being mental health aware look like is you don't have to fix the issue for that individual to be of help. Now, there's the old adage that a problem shared is a problem halved. You're not trying to fix that problem, but by giving that safe space for someone to talk through those challenges, to talk through what they're experiencing at that point, may be a starting point, or may be enough for someone to actually contextualize, to put it into perspective. So with regards to supporting people's mental health, from a My Life Tonic perspective, it's important to be able to offer year-round support for individuals. Mental Health Awareness Week is fantastic in raising awareness, bringing it to the point of conversation, but we can and we need to be able to support each other year-round. Community is one element of well-being, or the 5 pillars of well-being. Understanding what those 5 pillars are can help support individuals to maintain their own positive well-being, and also to help them review what in fact may or may not be working for them at the time. Going back to what my opening statement was in terms of mental health is something that is dynamic and changing and certainly not static. That by being aware of the pillars of well-being can certainly help us maintain a longer term and sustainable mental health. We also then have habits that can help maintain those 5 pillars. And we often talk about life tonics within supporting people, whether it's having enough sleep, digital detox, unwanting, savouring the moments is equally as important. Following this week, I'll be sharing with people the wellbeing scorecard, which helps people to understand where they can make improvements if required. If organizations would like our support, we can offer that with monthly sessions, desk yoga, weekly emails. Ultimately, we want to support individuals and organizations to maintain a positive well-being and a positive mental health. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in contact, and I'm sure we can support you in the best and most relevant way. Thanks for joining, thanks for listening, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us.